it's not like it's a secret anymore where you can get this real leg up, which is what makes it so hard to win. Other than that, what it seems to be, the Dodgers just seem to just keep bringing up the Brinks truck. They seem to be the modern day version of what the Yankees used to do. But I like the Yankees approach, and I see some other teams, going younger, not being afraid to put young guys on the field and then picking in spots with the overpaid salaries. But it's hard to win. It's a lot of teams trying to compete that have a lot of things going. And I think that the differentiator to me is, can you load up on your development? Because that's going to be, can you go get a guy to come play for you for 4 or 5 years, for $500,000, out of your farm system? Can you draft well, develop well? And I see a lot of teams putting more in scouting and those managers in the farm systems. Those are the teams that seem to have a little more of it figured out.
Sorry, I clicked something. My mic was off. How concerned are you about the collective bargaining agreement? I find this sport to be in dire straits. I think that this sport, just to reiterate, and I know you and I talked about this a couple of months ago, I was against the 2020 season. I thought the 2020 season was hodgepodge, and what I wanted to do was cancel it based on the health at the time and not the money at the time. And I hated that they were talking about finances so much because these guys were so dumb. And what I said was, cancel 2020, lock yourselves in a room, quarantine for 14 days or whatever you need, and do not come out of a hotel without a CBA. And, when the NHL announced the bring back of their bubble, they came out, not only did they announce that they were moving to Toronto and Edmonton for a bubble, for a playoff, a special playoff. Oh, and by the way, we have a 4-year extension of our collective bargaining agreement with Don Fear, by the way, just for the record. And I know Tony Clark and I know Rob Manfred, and they don't hate each other the way Fear and Selig used to hate each other. And I think what they should have done is spent this last little time. We talk about these forward-thinking companies. I've complimented your company for going in and transitioning to an online faction because you needed to survive. And, let's look at General Motors back in April of last year, when General Motors realized nobody was buying cars, but they needed ventilators. So we know how to build those, and let's build them. And they did, and everybody applauded. And I thought that was really great. Those were forward-thinking companies. Baseball is not a forward-thinking company, and they couldn't use the time properly to get it so that they could get something for their long-term health accomplished. So now they're going into this another hodgepodge season. Remember last year, they only traveled within their divisions. The East played the East, the Central played the Central, the West plays the West. So now if you're an East Coast team like the Phillies or the Mets or the Red Sox, you're traveling to Seattle and you're traveling to Anaheim. You're all over the place, to take your point. And you're doing this, yet you have a collective bargaining agreement that expires December 1. And let's say you're right about the vaccine. This is my last point. Let's say you're right about the vaccine. And we get a fall where we can have 80% capacity at football games. You're getting ready for 2022 with every sport getting full crowds back. The Masters has a full crowd back, and you're going to have a labor stoppage? That's when you're going to choose? They'll never come back. You'll lose fans forever. And you're losing fans left and right, because I don't know any people that are under 20 years old that give a crap about baseball.
Well, it's a hard sport to follow right now. I still follow baseball. I love baseball, and I miss going to the games. And I don't think that baseball is in dire straits as what people say. I wish they'd actually stop making or feeling like they're going to make all the changes. What I like them to do is, and not to get on a tangent about this, but first of all, I hate seeing the players have to go that many years not making any money. I think that's a problem. And then you get a handful of players that are making all the money. There's got to be a way to balance that out a little bit more. Because what happens is these players are resentful, and they all end up leaving their home clubs because they feel like they've been ripped off. Mm-hmm. I don't care what you say. You spend 4 or 5 years, you're an all-star level player, you're filling up the stands, you're making $500,000 a year. Yeah, you're damn right. I'm getting paid, and it doesn't matter where you go. And all these guys end up leaving, and we're not seeing the Willie Mays or the Mickey Mantles or the guys that stay with the team their whole career. which to me is really important. And I think that baseball could figure that out better. I think they got to stop worrying about making all the changes. And to me, I would shorten the season a little bit. I don't have a problem with some of the things they're doing, but I do think that the trust they have between the Players Association and the league is a real problem. Playing Sunday night games and then guys having to get on a plane and flying to the West Coast and playing Monday night, like that's the stuff that gets the players crazy. And there's so many of those little things that happen that, I can go on and on. Like, guys play a whole month without a day off. There's definitely not, and the relationship is so bad. They definitely don't have enough guys on the bench. They should be able to have a couple guys like in hockey that don't dress. They should have one or two players that don't dress. Like, why do you have to run these relievers out where their arms are going to fall off?
Right,
Or
have like a 28-man roster and give me 4 or 5 scratches. I'd be fine.
Now they added one player on, I think, in this. But there should be more players so that players can have a day off. I mean, for God's sakes, that would keep. First of all, that's more jobs for more players. You're seeing more and more players' careers ending even shorter. Like, just common sense. And I just think that there's enough money being made. There really is for everybody to be happy and follow a little bit of the NBA suit, because you don't see the NBA players squabbling with the owners. Somehow they figured out how to do a split, make it fair. Everybody's doing well. And you don't see the players complaining much. They pretty much fall in the line and do what's needed, which is what you want with your employees, what you want with your partners. So I love what the league has done for the NBA player, made them really giving them some respect and giving them some speaking lines. And yet, you can see there's a mutual respect between the owners and the players. So if they could do it, I mean, why can't baseball?
Well, you made a great transition, because I wanted to ask you about that. Knowing players the way you do, a lot of former players, current players, this All-Star game doesn't make any sense. And from a business standpoint, I've heard this. You tell me if I'm barking up the wrong tree here. It seems like there are shoe companies that have their product launches around the All-Star game, and that the shoe companies came to Adam Silver and said, please have an All-Star game. Like, don't lose the All-Star game, because that's a big push for our business and our goals. And Adam Silver knows where his bread is buttered, and he says, well, we're not talking about mom and pop shops. These are Converse and Adidas and Nike, and they need their businesses and their partners. And I'm not saying that Adam Silver isn't taking the players into consideration, but the players are fried. The players had, you can't talk about that lockdown like it's they were just sitting with their feet up. They thought they were coming back every minute. They were constantly staying in shape. They come back for this bubble, and then they have like a 10-minute off season, and you're starting up a season again.
Thank God for the NBA, man. My entertainment. I don't know what I've been doing.
You loved it. But
well, I mean, even right now, I mean, it's hard to watch college basketball. That's if they end up playing half of the games. So the NBA has been the only consistent thing.
I know, my alma mater, Syracuse, just got their game canceled tonight.
Canceled tonight for Louisville. Yeah, it's a shame.
And they're not going to get enough wins to get into the NCAA tournament. They're done.
Yeah, the women are struggling too. The women had 2 games canceled this week, and they're a Final Four team if they can get their act together. But they've had their ups and downs as well. I think going back to the shoe thing, by the way, I mean, Adam Silver is going to be concerned with Nike. I don't know if you care. Nike's one of the biggest collectible companies that I've ever seen, one of the best collectible companies. People always say, Brandon, it's amazing what you've done with collectibles. Love your new company, Collectible Exchange. I'm like, yeah, one day I want to grow up and be like Nike, because they're a phenomenal collectible company. They know how to do the launches. They have all these guys wearing these sneakers during the All-Star game or during the finals, do limited runs. Now, all of a sudden, the sneakers quadruple in the open market, and then they flood them with other models similar to that one. And people feel like they have the same value as the models that they didn't make quite enough of. So, Nike's a big sponsor. They put up a lot of money, and it does help. I'm a fan of the All-Star game. I think the All-Star game has been great tribute, but it's a money play. And anytime you do things,
what I'm saying is, I'm not anti-All-Star game. I'm anti-All-Star game this year.
No, but you got to remember, you have the All-Star game for the sneaker company you mentioned, but let's remember the big elephant in the room is still ESPN, ABC. They're paying a ridiculous amount of money, not to mention TNT and NBA. They got 3 major funnels of money coming in between NBA TV, ABC, ESPN, and then TNT. And that All-Star game is a big money play for them. They get big dollars. It's a primetime game on Sunday. Then you got the other crap going on Saturday and everything else. I do love that they're giving the players a week off after that. So just to kind of, just kind of back on your point, he has settled to give the guys, 5-6 days after that for the guys to get a little bit of a rest and to regroup. And I love that they didn't set up the schedule for the second half to see how the first half went. So smart. And listen, basketball is 12 months a year. So keep playing to the summer. Who cares? Just keep playing.
Well, to that point, and it brings up another thing. Boy, it's like we didn't even have a show meeting. You're setting me up for all these other points. The rumor is that the NBA has to be finished by the end of May, beginning of June, so that the players can go play in the Olympics. If the Olympics happens, if the Olympics doesn't happen, to your point, then you could have a long pause, because then you can go into wherever. But that the commitment to the players, because a lot of the players want to play in that Olympics. Maybe not LeBron James and Giannis Antetokounmpo, but let's face it, there's a lot of players in that league that the Olympics is very, very important to them.
I have a hard time seeing this season end by the end of May. I don't know how they possibly could do it.
You see the line, and hockey, by the way, is the same way, in the sense that NBC has told them, if you're not done, your games are not going to be on our networks, because we're airing the Olympics. If the Olympics happen, again, this is a big if, but I think the pendulum is leaning toward it's happening. If the Olympics happen, the hockey has to be done too, and that's why they're kind of shoehorning this season to get it done. And what hockey's strength is, they didn't schedule as many games as the NBA. The NBA did 72 games, hockey did 56, and they did it where you only play teams in your division. And for the record, as a hockey fan, I freaking love that. I don't want to play the Columbus Blue Jackets, and I'm a Devils fan. I don't want to play the Columbus Blue Jackets.
I wish baseball would do the same. Just play the Mets, the Orioles, the Red Sox, Phillies. We'll figure it out from there. I love
the Colorado Rockies. It doesn't matter to me. Exactly.
Let's just bang heads and get the rivalries going and rock and roll. I would love to imagine we just play ball. I hate that we got to play Tampa, even though I know they're a good team, 20 times. We got to play Toronto 20 times. I want to play the Mets 20 times. I want to play the Phillies 20 times, Red Sox, maybe the Nationals, and let these guys just take a bus ride, to play basically 2/3 of their games.
The problem with that, though, is the Western teams get a disadvantage then, because they can't do it. Seattle doesn't bus to anywhere. You know what I mean?
Seattle's the worst.
Seattle flies everywhere. San Francisco flies everywhere. I guess if they played Oakland 20 times, that'd be fine. If you went all regional, and there've been talk about that, MLB having a big realign, getting rid of the American and National League and just making it based on geography, I think you'd have a better sport. I agree with you. I
think you wear the players out with all the travel. I used to kid around with Mass about, when he played in Edmonton. Can you imagine playing in Edmonton?
Yeah.
Everything's like a ridiculous flight. Everything's a 5-hour flight.
Yeah.
You go to the bathroom, it's a 3-hour flight.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough, man. But, it's business. The sport is a business. And they've done a good job of, getting a lot of reoccurring crazy amounts of money. I tell you, I didn't think the NBA Network would be this good. But, I find myself watching a lot of NBA Network. We know TNT does a good job. I mean, the sports have really figured out a way to milk every last dollar out of everything.
Yeah.
You got the Red Zone, the NFL Network, then you got, 4 channels showing football games. I mean, I don't know. It's like there's been a virus, but thank God for sports. I'm very grateful that the leagues have put themselves out, because, it's been something to watch, and it's been entertaining me. I mean, it hasn't been – I don't take the games all that seriously, because –
yeah, but there's been a difference, my friend. The ratings have been down.
Yeah. Now, are you buying tickets at these prices? Are you picked up a ticket for some of these games?
No, but I've been the guy. I went to 6 baseball games this summer when there were no fans allowed. I went to 2 hockey games. I went to the Prudential Center twice, and that was weird, very weird. And I went to 1 football game. I went to Denver Jets.
How weird? I mean,
it's
almost
weird.
Uncomfortable weird?
No. First of all, the way they have us sitting in the press box, you're not near anybody. So
right.
And masks are mandated, and my whole thing, I'm a pro mask guy, but if you're not near anybody, you're not near anybody. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
don't understand that.
I see people in their cars by themselves with a mask on.
with a mask. What
Like,
are you doing? I don't get that. I don't understand it. I'm not criticizing it. It just I don't understand it. And at the hockey game, I'll tell you one thing: the Devils were playing Boston, and Boston scored, and they hadn't figured out their fake crowd sound, which I'm against. I hate all fake crowd sound, but their fake crowd sound was going on, and all of a sudden, Boston scored, and the press box at the Prudential Center is the top level. Like
Yeah.
it's above the upper deck.
Yeah, that's high.
It's a great seat. It's a fantastic seat to watch the game. You could hear Boston slapping their sticks. And I give credit to MSG last night, the Devils coverage of Devils Rangers. There's nobody at Madison Square Garden. They had no fake crowd sound, which I love. And you could hear when they had a fight, everyone cheering them on, tapping their sticks. I love that sound. I think that, look, I want fans back as fast as anybody, but if you're not going to have it, don't give me fake noise. Give me real noise, because those noises, I think, have a cool atmosphere. The games at Yankee Stadium, I'll tell you one thing about Yankee Stadium. When you walk, figure home plate to the first base line on the main concourse of Yankee Stadium, if you look to your left, you see all the lights and the game. Everyone's in regular uniforms, and it looks just like a baseball game. If you turn your head to the right, it looks like the middle of December, because everything's boarded up, everything's shrink wrapped, all the concessions are closed, all the metal fences are down, and it looks like the building is closed. And I did a lap around the building just to see what it was like, and it literally looks like a ghost town. So I was never fearful. And Brandon, I know you're a New Yorker, you'll appreciate this. I went to a Yankees Marlins game, and I parked on the street in the Bronx.
Every now and then, right by Gate 4, on that street.
Wait a minute. There's no fans, so it was like there was a whole street. I'm like, this has got to be a trick.
Whether your car was there when you came out, that's another story.
No, it was.
But
I couldn't believe it. I haven't driven to Yankee Stadium in years, and I said, because I don't want to go on the subway. No offense to the subway, I'm not interested.
I'll tell you, man, it's an interesting time. I'm excited though about the 10% of the fans coming back. God bless them, the ones that can go.
Yep.
What's your under over on the Yankees and your under over on the Mets? How many games each of them win? And can Judge play a whole season?
No
way.
No. I'd say Mets 85 wins, and I'd say Yankees 88 wins, second place behind Tampa.
So again, they're going to get a wild card spot. Can Gary Sanchez play the whole season without getting completely demolished by the fans?
They get beat up, man. That Yankee team gets beat up a lot.
Well, there's high expectation. They maybe got to the dance or pretty far too quick. It reminds me of kind of the Willie Randolph saga. You know, he got to that NLCS early when he was with the Mets, and then everything else was a disappointment.
Yeah.
I mean,
he got fired. He got fired in the middle of Anaheim in the middle of the night. Jay Horowitz tells the greatest story about that in the world. He just literally in the middle of the night, like you wanted to avoid the back pages because that was what it was back then. Still newspapers were the story, and they wanted to avoid the back pages. They literally had him fly all the way to Anaheim, let him go in the hotel, and then he had to fly all the way back.
That could not have made him too happy, knowing Willie.
No.
I mean, and what the shame of it is, he really, when you think about it, compared to since he's left, didn't do bad. That's the thing about the guys like Willie and Bobby. Those are old school, long term, baseball guys. I'm curious to see the kind of pressure. I was talking to Aaron Boone a few weeks ago, and I was like, a lot of pressure, man. I mean, people are expecting you to get to the dance, which is, you've won 100 games now. I mean, 2 years in a row. And I feel like it's not enough. I mean, I feel like Yankee fans, I usually get the pulse of the Yankee fan, particularly. If you talk to Yankee fans, they're disappointed. They don't feel like the team has produced what they thought. And I don't know, you win 100 games, you're one inning away from really going to the ALCS. You're one pitch from Knucklehead throwing that home run pitch, which I wish you just looked a little more upset, by the way. I know it's not supposed to be all emotional and everything, but he could have looked a little more upset instead of smiling and kind of laughing after you get up that home run. I don't know. Stuff confuses me, but I think there's some question marks that I hope the Yankees can figure out, because they are a tight team. I think they have good chemistry in there. I think those guys like each other. A lot of them grew up together. But the pressure, I think, when you're not the underdog, you want to be the underdog, not the favorite. The Mets are going to come out. They're going to have some energy. They got a pretty good team. This town's going to go crazy. They're going to win 85 games. The Yankees win 90 games, and the fans are going to be bummed out and pissed.
It's so funny how centralized, though, in New York, baseball is alive and well, whereas in other towns, it's not. It's just not talked about as much. It's not on. I was on the air in Denver the other day. They're not looking forward to this. They're mad about the Arenado trade, and they don't want to hear that. And Seattle hasn't made the playoffs in 20 years. I was talking to somebody on my podcast for that, and it just.
I want to talk about something pretty serious, though.
Okay.
And that is, first of all, there are a bunch of players now that are signing. The collectible business is through the roof. So it's a good time to be collectible exchange. But, players are signing more $1 million plus deals are being signed in the collectible business per year than since I've been in this business. Almost every top quarterback has $1 million plus deal. Trevor Lawrence has $1 million plus deal.
Wow.
I mean, it's insane, the kind of money that's thrown around. What I'm concerned about is, first of all, people are way, way overpaying on products. And this card market that everybody seems to be talking about booming, I hope that people are not going as crazy as I think they are, and they are.
Wait,
buying
when
these
you
cards.
say cards, are you talking about the new cards, those Topps Now cards?
I'm talking about the Topps Now. I'm talking about these Panini cards, these rookie cards that sell for $10,000 and $15,000. Like I'm going through all my cards in my house. I have thousands of cards, and I found a Tom Brady rookie card that I got graded maybe 10 years ago. It's from 2000. I go look it up. It's like worth $7,500.
Wow. Freaking
Tom Brady rookie card that I didn't even know what it was. And what scares me is I'm like, who's stupid enough to pay that? I'm definitely selling the card. But I'm like, but I don't understand. Like, when I go online, I start looking at the price. I hope people are not foolish enough to start putting all this crazy money and think that this bubble is not going to break. Because this market is at these prices for a trading card are way out of whack. Way out of whack.
So tell me about winter auction, and what is winter auction? You have A-Rod, Jeter, Gretzky, Ringo Starr, Paul McCartney.
Well, every auction we do is going to be a different theme, and we are going to do an April opening day baseball auction where I'm actually selling a bunch of my own product. I'm going to my wife's going to be ecstatic about this. To me to get rid of all that stuff out of the house. But the winter auction, you could go to bidcx.com. Bidcx.com is a ton of game used. So if you love, Jeter game used stuff, cleats and a bat and A-Rod, we put together an incredible collection, especially if you're into hockey. There's a lot of cool hockey stuff. Mark Messier game used stick. You got Stevie Yzerman, all kinds of stuff. It's a really fascinating auction. What's great about our auctions, and I've been doing these for a long time, is you go to some of these auctions and it just takes you 3 hours just to go through the auction. We only limit it to 500 items, and that's something you could probably go through in about 45 minutes. So once you kind of go through it, because these auctions are usually a couple thousand items, it's so hard to navigate. Mm-hmm. But I got to tell you, I love all these products. I mean, thank God I'm on the other side of it, because I want to buy everything in this auction. It's that good. I mean, and very, very rare stuff. The game used stuff, as people read about, at least that market has a history of building up. You can see the value. You have an idea that there's only a limited amount of those out there. I mean, do you know how many of these trading cards got printed? I don't. No one does. And who knows even if they're going and still printing them, which we found out with Upper Deck that, in the years with Richard McWilliams, who went to court and they settled, decided to go back and start reprinting. I just don't know. There's no regulatory system on these cards. Nobody's watching the validity. And they don't say, hey, by the way, there's 20,000 Tom Brady rookie cards out there or 100,000 Jordan cards out there. And I think people buy these things thinking that this is what the value is. but the value is what somebody's willing to pay for it. But when you buy that thing, can you resell it? And are the trading card companies weighing in from a PR and promotion standpoint? And there's nothing stopping them from going in there and accelerating and hyping up some of these prices. Can they be going in and bidding and buying some of these things? So it gives people a false sense of what the market is. It's kind of like insider trading. If I go in and start buying a whole bunch of stock and have different people, all of a sudden they look like the stock's on a run. It's the same thing with the trading cards. And I really hope that people are a lot smarter and don't go too crazy, because I think there's a bubble that's about to burst. And I hate to see it because it's a black eye on the business.
It really is. And it
scares me.
It does. When you're putting out like all your stuff, you verify your stuff. But for people who don't know a lot about your business, explain to our audience, how do you go about?
Well, the one thing that's interesting is like, one of the things that inspired me to do this new the collectible exchange is that you go to eBay and there's all this crap on there. The bummer is there's some actually good stuff there too. What I do is I'm constantly trolling the site. We have about 50,000 items and growing. It'll probably be about 100,000 items on our site by April. But the thing is, we have very strict provisions about what things can get put up on the site. We take things down all the time. And if people want additional authentication for a very small fee, we offer it. So if you buy something you're not sure, you can have the item sent to us. We additionally either we authenticate it, or we basically substantiate that that's the proper authentication. And, everything that we sell is authenticated by either ourselves to see it, or we have a specific list of authentication that we consider to be valid. And, these days there are good authentication. There is real companies that are doing a good job and go through the right processes. Obviously, I built my last company on that. The Steiner seal means it's real. And obviously, I set the tone for that, I like to think. But I think that, people still have to be careful, especially now with the market booming and a lot of things going for a lot of money. There are some shysters out there, and you should be really careful about the authentication when you're buying stuff and what you get. And that's what I love about Collectible Exchanges. We do the stuff that I was begging eBay to do for 10 years, to go in there and start taking that collectible market. There's a million items on eBay right now. If you just type in signed collectibles, and I just, I think, a third of those items that shouldn't even be on there. And then if you really don't know what you're doing, it's a travesty. It's another black eye in the business. And I dare anybody to go on Collectible Exchange, and I think we're 100%. We're constantly trolling and scrolling. So I love my auction this particular time of year, just because you're home, it's cold out, if you're bored, go and give it a look. Even if you don't buy anything or bid, it's the kind of auction you go down memory lane and it brings you a lot of smiles and a lot of fun moments. It's that kind of auction with a lot of really cool stuff that we got from some crazy, amazing collectors that were downsizing and moving. And we're just lucky enough to run into these collections. And that's what we're auctioning off.
That's great. And congratulations on it. Again, you have Mario Lemieux, Wayne Gretzky, Steve Yzerman, Alex Rodriguez, Derek Jeter.
Some good stuff.
You also have Dave Bing, Floyd Little, John.
Oh, yeah,
Mackey.
I forgot about the Syracuse. There's 150 Syracuse items, which I went to all the biggest Syracuse collectors that I could find, because I felt like we never done a big Syracuse auction. Jeez, I didn't even promote my own alma mater. But there's some very cool. If you're a Syracuse fan, you want to do a little something for your Orange Cave, this is the place. There's a lot of very reasonable price stuff that you got to be a Syracuse fan to enjoy these 150, 200 items. But there's a lot of cool stuff. Multi-sign, old school, Floyd Little, some crazy Floyd Little, Jim Brown, Dave Bing, you mentioned, Bangheim, Mello, really cool stuff. I mean, a lot of one of a kind. I'm afraid to go on the auction because I want to redo my whole man cave in Syracuse stuff, but I'm not going to do that.
Well, listen, you represent the alma mater very well, and there's lots of really cool stuff, and it's a lot of fun. Bidcx.com and collectibleexchange.com with the X, not an EX. Collectibleexchange.com. Is bidcx.com, does that take you to the same place?
Yeah, bidcx.com puts you right on the auction. And then you go to Collectible Exchange, you can kind of see all of our UFC stuff and all the Syracuse just general stuff, and then the 50,000 items. But I got to tell you, my Wednesday night's looking a little empty right now. I was kind of hoping to bunker down, see if Syracuse could beat Louisville. I thought tonight was like a road.
And
I
it's
don't
not
know.
enough
Like
time
Duke,
to reschedule a game. They're not going to play enough games. And
when was the last time you saw Duke like almost quit their season? It looks like they quit. It looks like they don't want to.
It's so it's weird. I've been against college sports. I've been much more positive about pro sports than college sports. I think college sports, these kids are sacrificial lambs, and I just got an email from Syracuse. They're going on pause. They're going to go all virtual for their semester because they have over 100 cases, and that's their rule.
Wow!
And,
oh boy!
There's been parties, and I'm not surprised that there's been parties. I'm not naive, and it was funny. I was up there in August, and the semester had just started. And you go into the building. So I teach a class at Newhouse, and my first class was in person. And I went into Newhouse, and I saw a bunch of teachers and whatnot. And the place looks immaculate. Like, everything's spread out. There's hand wash everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, it's really nice. And they said, "Don't you love the protocols?" And I said, "Yeah, but did you go to the dorms?" I said, "Did you hit fraternity row?" I said, "That's where this virus is getting spread, not here. This is not the problem." And they're like, "Well, no, we don't go down there." I said, "That's where this is going." And supposedly there have been like a bunch of house parties because it's freezing cold and there's snow everywhere. So people aren't having outdoor parties. And I'm sorry, but you're not getting 18, 19, 20-year-olds to sit in their dorms and watch Netflix. It's not happening.
Can you send that memo to the commissioner of baseball too? Because those kids are 21, 22, and 23, and they ain't sitting tight.
Well, he's mad at me anyway.
All right.
I'll say this about baseball. They gave me a lot of credit, but we'll end on this. I'll tell you a really funny story. Do you remember during the NBA bubble, the guy on the Clippers, Lou Williams, who got he got permission to leave the bubble, and he went to a funeral in Atlanta, Georgia, and then that evening he was at a strip club?
No, he was having chicken wings, but
right.
All right.
Okay, sure. And that was a joke. That was funny, and I got a kick out of that story. I thought it was a really, during such a dark time, that was a really funny story. I thought it was hysterical. 6 days later, the Miami Marlins, 6 guys on the Marlins went to that same club. The difference was nobody knew until there were 18 cases that it was revealed that these 6 players went. So I called a buddy of mine down with the Marlins, and I won't give his name out, but I said, he's a Marlins official, and I said, 6 guys went to the Lou Williams Club. They went right to the same place. And he says, they could have gone in uniform, and nobody would have known. Lou Williams walks in, and within seconds, it's on Instagram.
That's poor NBA players.
And Lou Williams is not a star. Like, Lou Williams is a good player. He's a nice player. And I'm not picking on Lou Williams. I think
I'm still buying in that he went for the chicken wings, by the way.
Sure. And he walks in, and within seconds, people are posting it on Instagram, and the NBA sees it instantly. The Marlins, they had to have detectives do contact tracing to find out these guys went in there. That's a sign of the times. That's what it is. And I've told radio stations, and I use this example all the time. Any radio station, come out of a commercial break with a soundbite from Mike Trout. Would you agree that he's the best player in the sport right now?
Absolutely.
Come back, play an audio clip, and give a T-shirt away. Give a collectible exchange T-shirt to the first listener that can recognize the sound of his voice.
And isn't it unbelievable? The best player in baseball. I don't even know if people recognize his voice or even what he looks like.
You know how many people watching this right now don't know who George Springer is?
Oh, I'm sure.
They've heard the name. You've heard the name. You couldn't.
And he's rich.
You couldn't pick him out. You couldn't identify him. And it's amazing to me how if you did the same experiment, same radio station, same segment, come back with sound bites from Derek Jeter, Alex Rodriguez, David Ortiz, Barry Bonds, or Sammy Sosa, and any one of those random clips from any one of those guys, you'd recognize their voice in a second.
But you know what's amazing?
They haven't played in 10 years.
All these interview shows, the morning shows, Jimmy Fallon, blah, blah, blah. All these players had opportunities to do Zooms. they all had opportunities to get a little bit more on the front page part of the newspaper, show a little of their personality. I watch that stuff every night. Did you see any of these players on any of those shows? Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel,
Never.
Ellen, any of these shows. Who's doing? Why would they not? That's what kills me.
I'll give you one better. I'll give you one better. Mike Trout got hurt. Remember Mike Trout got hurt a couple years ago?
Yeah.
And he's from New Jersey. He's from South Jersey, right? You know that during his recovery, he went home to see his family. I would bet thousands of dollars. He went home at some point. Baseball should find out when he's going home. He's not rehabbing yet. He's recovering from surgery. He's fine to go home and see his family. Pick him up one day in a limousine and take him to Secaucus, New Jersey, and have him be on MLB Network all day. And then 2 days later, give him a day of rest. Next day, he gets the same limo, take him up to Bristol, Connecticut, and do ESPN, all their shows all day. And that's how you sell these players. Maybe he's funny. I don't know. He covers the Angels. The last 10 years, I've been primarily a National League guy anyway. I don't know Mike Trout. And I couldn't pick him out of a lineup. I mean, I know what he looks like because I watch games, but that to me is comical how baseball doesn't seem to realize that as a crisis. That is a major issue, and no one seems to matter. And you talk about players in the Yankees, and again, I'm not being disrespectful when I say this. You're older. You're not the generation that I'm worried about. I'm 46. I'm going to be 47 in a couple of weeks. When I'm 76, the people who are 15, 16 now, when they're 46, they won't have the passion that I had growing up. And they won't have it. And if you just do the simple math, as they become prominent business people and functioning adults in society, the interest in baseball is going to decrease and decrease and decrease. It's just a fact. And
no question.
To me, it's all about young kids. That's all it is. And the vitriol when the owners and players are fighting, look at the Twitter accounts of all the people that are bitching and moaning. Every one of them is 35 plus.
You're right. You're right. It's not easy. It's very fixable.
I still think Lou Williams is the better story. We should have ended there.
I know it was the chicken wings. I'm definitely going to Atlanta. It's on my hit list to go check out those chicken wings to see how legit they are, because I have a feeling they're really good.
Have you been on an airplane? I know we should have left.
Nope.
I haven't either.
I haven't been on an airplane, but I'm hoping to go on an airplane in about 30 days when I get vaccinated.
Right.
I'm not going on an airplane until I get vaccinated.
Yeah, man, should be pretty wild. All right, that's Brandon Steiner. Man. Again, bidcx.com. Thank you for doing this. Let's do it again soon. And thank you